Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe. Give it this video a like.
Check out the podcast below in the description as well.
All right. We wondered recently whether or not the Raiders were messing with Marcus Mariota, whether they had injured his ability to sign somewhere else as a free agent, asked him to take a pay cut, other backup quarterback signed. You know what? As it turns out, this was actually a good piece of business by the Raiders. Mariota re-signs with the Raiders for $3.5 million. He can earn another $4.5 million through incentives. And he's back. He couldn't find the money elsewhere, so he came back to the Raiders. What do you think?
Well, I mean, couldn't find the money elsewhere. He never was not on the team. I would say they successfully squeezed him. You know, I mean, he was under contract the entire time. Now, he basically capitulated to their demands by signing this deal, $3.5 million. But to me, I still go back to this. I just looked up Jameis's contract. Remember, it was just 5 or whatever years ago that those two guys went 1-2. Jameis, very similar deal, got $5.5 million, $4.5 guaranteed at signing with the ability to make up to 12. The difference is Jameis is going to start, right? So I bet some of his incentives, if he just plays well and they have success, will be relatively easy. If you tell me Jameis plays 17 games next year on a team that's loaded, I bet he makes over $10 million. Mariota, this year, he would not have played if Derek doesn't hurt himself scrambling to the right against the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. Like, it's hard to make incentives when you don't play. I'm a little shocked on this one, Guy, that Andy Dalton, who 2 years ago was worth $3 million, then played for the Cowboys and was average at best to below, just got $10 million. And these two guys, because I think right now, if me and you co-owned a team, we co-owners, we're like Jerry Jones, also the GM. I might take my chances with Mariota or Jameis. No, I would rather have Mariota or Jameis, but specifically Mariota than Andy Dalton. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that's just I don't pretend to be Bill Walsh here, but I'm a little confused by the quarterback market. I'm not going to lie. I don't quite get it.
I would have Jameis number one, clear cut, first of all.
I'd agree.
Okay.
How does Jameis Winston now? It behooved him to go to the Saints, play well. I understand it.
He's made a lot of money,
and maybe but Andy's made a lot of money too. Someone gave him $10 million.
No. I just mean for Jameis, it made sense for him because he's made a lot of money. What is best for my career? Backing up Drew Brees for a year is best for my career. Maybe,
but even this year, like I would, if I was the Bears, I would rather have Jameis. Now, it reported they were all over. He wanted to go back to the Saints. But
yeah,
I'm just saying,
like, he'd rather, if you're him, I'd take less money to play for the Saints.
I agree. I'm a flummoxed by the quarterback market.
Well,
I think these guys, just their talent level, they are flawed. We're seeing the last several years what the Glennons, what the Daltons, Fitzpatrick, who was really good last year, has had some ups and downs, Guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So
well, maybe that was part of the Raiders' deal, right? If maybe the Bears would have given Marcus Mariota more money than they gave Andy Dalton, if they could have. But to your point, they couldn't have because the Raiders they did not cut him. When I say he knows what was out there, it's because I think he had to know, his agent had to know, was somebody else going to pay him $7 million? Otherwise, I'm not agreeing to this pay cut. You can cut me because you're going to have to, and I'll go sign with the Patriots, right?
Yeah,
so
no
clearly
one's
that
naming
didn't
him
happen.
a starter. Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I'm with you as it relates to Andy. As it relates to Mariota and the Raiders, it turns out fantastic for the Raiders. Derek got hurt last year.
If you can have a $3 million backup quarterback for sure.
Marcus gave him a chance to win, and he's also now, I don't know, I mean, how much of a trade asset can we really view him as? Because, again, if somebody was going to pay him $7 million, his agent would have known that, and he wouldn't have taken the pay cut with the Raiders. But you never know what happens. Somebody gets hurt, bing, bang, boom, and all of a sudden you've got a quarterback you can get a third-round pick for.
Or this, I would just tell his agent, hey, they're offering you what, 3.5? We'll give you 4.75. Demand to get cut. You won't take their deal, and we'll pay you. Why would we trade for you?
Well, trade. I'm talking. It's September and somebody gets hurt.
Well, I'm not. I saw it on Twitter that he becomes a more tradable asset now. What if a team wanted him and was interested in him, even as a backup quarterback, and they would have known what the Raiders were offering because we knew. Remember, they wanted him to take a $7 million pay cut. It turned out it was 6.5 that he ended up taking, right? Because he was going to make 10. Now he makes 3.5. that someone, if they wanted him, and if someone's going to trade for him, especially I saw during the draft time, they would have just said, no, we'll pay you that, or we'll pay you a little more.
Right, but I think my guess is here's where I agree with the tradable asset is in September, October, somebody gets hurt. Now, if you could get somebody's desperate, they'll give you a late, potentially third-round pick or something like that for Mariota. Maybe a fourth. Doesn't feel like a third would be in play. I'm just saying I understand it, but the biggest thing is you've just got a second-year quarterback here in your system who showed that when he played, he was solid last year for $3.5 million. Like, that's just, to me,
I undersold him, actually. He was due $10.75. So, I mean, he took a massive pay cut.
Took a big pay cut, yeah. It's just, to me, of all the things that we've talked about with the Raiders and questionable decisions, this is a major win this is good. This was good business by the Raiders.
This was a win by them for sure.
But
I would say this. It's a win with a guy that doesn't play. Now, it's an asset, so I'm not going to try to diminish what they pulled off. But like the win and loss with Gabe Jackson, Rodney Hudson, guys that play every fucking game, this is a guy that it's really, to me, a backup quarterback is just a contingency plan. It's like paying for insurance, which is good to have if you get in a wreck. But a lot of teams, and the Raiders are a good example, with Derek go the whole year without getting in a wreck. Now, they had a little one last year. They ended up losing the game. But by that time, remember, the playoffs it was already over.
Yeah.
I just think that it's not like they pulled this off with a starter. And I'm not trying to talk shit.
No. You're saying,
it's just,
let me say it this way, and you tell me if this is what you're saying. We don't get to say like, well, they screwed up Gabe Jackson, but they nailed Mariota, so wash.
Yeah, one guy plays, the other guy doesn't.
Yeah.
Now, here's where they will get credit if they are, in your scenario, a guy goes down and they can flip him. I have a hard time. I mean, someone would have to be really desperate. If you liked him in a third-round pick, even a fourth-round pick, that means you liked him. Unless you have no money, but then how would you have money once the season was around, the $3.5 million, because you would need the cap space to trade for him.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just going to be on the team, don't you? Like he's just going to be their backup quarterback.
Because I don't know if you're them, unless you get something good, like really good, right? Like a third-round pick. Why would you trade away your backup quarterback, who's your good back, who you like, in late September, early October? You wouldn't, as the games are getting important, unless you're 1-6.
One thing I think they realized, and clearly Mariota, his market must not have been great because he had to take this. They wildly overpaid Mariota last year.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, that the backup market.
You could take a positive and turn it into a negative. Attaboy.
Hater. Just the facts.
No, you're right. It's a good point. We thought when they did
Rodney Hudson and Gabe, you had teams willing to take them, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, Rodney, they got a third. Gabe got a fifth. Like, those guys are tradable. Why? Because they're starting good players.
I can't believe Andy Dalton got $10 million.
Because even the lowest points of your career, you still make $3.5 million.
I know. I can't believe Andy got 10. I guess last year was the lowest point he got. What did he get last year? Like 2.5?
2.5. Yeah. But I'm sure he hit some incentives because he ended up starting a bunch of games, right?
Yeah. Wow. Well, again, this is good for we'll talk about some other things. This is good for the Raiders.